was, the comparison between his situation and Colby Covington, because, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when Colby Covington in the welterweight division was going to be released from the UFC, despite having such a good record. They just didn't think he was exciting enough, and they didn't want to give him the opportunities that he deserved. So Colby then went heel, and now he's a superstar, But what I love about Beneil is that he is just a true martial artist, and he doesn't want to go that route. He doesn't want to, put on a persona and not stay true to who he is to, move up the rankings and get the money that everyone believes that he deserves. So I respect him for that. What do you guys think about, that whole dilemma? Do you think that it's a good decision to stay true to your roots, or to put on a persona and make a couple million more dollars each of those fights?
Man,
what was that?
Honestly, that's a tough question. I think some people would say that their roots are rooted in making money. So whatever the best avenue is.
Before you begin, since you guys talk about wrestling and whatnot, a lot of that is scripted. Obviously, the stunts are not. A lot of those things that they do are very difficult or very dangerous. But those guys put on personas to make money. They put on some really weird personas to get that dough. And yeah, what do you think? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to add that in there.
That's actually a really good point. But I think there's something to be said about the history of both of these entities, of like what you're talking about, like mixed martial arts, has always been real, if you will. NFL scripted, or not NFL, the WWE and wrestling, pro wrestling have been scripted. That being said, that is a good point. You got wrestlers that create these personas and they make money off of it. So what difference is it for a fighter to do that? And I'm with that, honestly, because that makes sense. You want to be entertaining, you want to bring eyeballs to the product. This is all the stuff we talk about when we talk about wrestling. But you got to be careful though, because the fan bases are different.
Exactly.
Fan bases react differently, right? Like if you approach pro wrestling, and try to be super real and super serious, like Ken Shamrock and Brock Lesnar when he came back his second stint, it kind of rubbed people the wrong way, right? And now that's exactly what Colby Covington's done. Well, because it's like they call it shoot, right? It's like a shoot thing to do. Like if you're shooting in pro wrestling, like you're being real, you're breaking kayfabe and you're getting out of the scripted stuff and you're shooting.
Gotcha.
And there's not many people that are in wrestling that can beat Brock Lesnar in a fight, right? However, in the art form of pro wrestling, anybody on any given night in any given town can beat whoever. We see that shit happen all the time. So it rubbed people the wrong way because it was Brock is coming back, but from the real sport of UFC or the real product of UFC back into wrestling, and he had the MMA stuff on. He had the gloves and the shorts. Whereas when he was a wrestler, he was wearing the trunks, and that was it. He was a pro wrestler, had the boots. So I remember a lot of fans were getting rubbed the wrong way with Brock's return, and then Ken Shamrock tried to think he was true, and even Kurt Angle, when Kurt Angle was starting out and he was training, he was like, I should never lose. I'm fucking Kurt Angle. I'm an Olympic gold medalist. Won it with a broken freaking neck, like he always says.
He was
that's not how pro wrestling is.
He was a legit Olympic medalist.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle won. He won the gold
matches online.
Yeah, in Atlanta, dude, on the home soil in '96.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to your point, it's similar in the way of both businesses, both UFC and or both mixed martial arts. When like the popular version of it, right? The popular version of mixed martial arts, the popular version of WWE, of pro wrestling, which is WWE. They're about making money, right? So more eyeballs on the product, more people talking about the product, more people coming out to watch, and see what's Colby Covington going to do? Like, that's good for business. But then you can't like get upset though when those same fans who are like loving your stuff because it's real, like your sport's real, it's not scripted, like they take this shit seriously. So that's why I think he gets a lot of hate. But if you look at it from pro wrestling, like with pro wrestling glasses on, Colby Covington is like any other heel that you see on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What I'll add to because Zach explained everything perfectly, but in wrestling, in professional wrestling, they always say you put the sport ahead of yourself. You don't, yes. And where I believe in MMA, UFC, you're actually fighting real opponents so you could become champion. So you're looking out for yourself because you want to be champion. Whereas in wrestling, it's more about, the community as a whole. So it's like wrestlers will lose on purpose to, let's say, an up and coming wrestler because they want to make the other guy look good. That's called putting them over. So it's not like there's things like that happen. Whereas again, in UFC, the difference is you're actually trying to fight to win, like for real. And so, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I do like now that a lot of these UFC fighters are coming out with like their persona or their little gimmick. And I think it's just adding a little more spice to the drama. Especially when they, with the weigh-ins and they're all looking at each other, but then one of them is all dressed up goofy, it just spices things up, and I think that's just great. Honestly, it's great entertainment.
It's good for business, man. Like you want to be able to have something else for fans to watch. Like the fighting is dope, and that's always going to have like a hardcore fan base. And this is like what we talk about when we talk about different promotions in wrestling, like the in-ring product in wrestling, like, yeah, you want it to be great, but at the same time, you want like pomp and circumstance, like you want storylines, you want, the soap opera part, and UFC will never have that soap opera part, like to where it's scripted. I don't think they're going to go down that route. But the more that these fighters take it upon themselves to generate that like authentic chemistry between each other, like in promoting fights and talking about it, and even like the post fight promos, if you will, like the interviews that they do, like that's the best time to show your personality, like the lead up to it, like at the press conference. Like Conor was the best at that. Absolutely. That's why Conor has always been rumored to be one of like Vince McMahon's like most wanted prospects to come over and do like some matches, because he can cut a promo, he can draw a crowd. Like people watch like UFC pay-per-views that Conor's on. And
because of that, because of how he sells it, the way, the charisma he has is, and just talks shit. He doesn't care, but the people love it, and that's how they get those high numbers. Because Conor, and I mean, just to kind of go off a little bit, I mean, just look at Mayweather when he was boxing too professionally. Always talking, I'm money, I'm this, I'm that. And what did that do? It made him look like a heel, like a bad guy, because no one liked him. It's like, oh, this guy's so cocky. This guy this guy that. And that's why people would, I'm going to buy this fight because I want to see this fool lose, even though he never lost. Yeah. So that's what he did. He would promote his own fights in a way to have people hate on him. And so people could buy the fights or go to the fights just to prove them wrong.
Bad publicity is still publicity. 100%. How is Ronda Rousey doing? Just out of curiosity. I know this is kind of off the